Week 9 of the Climate Tech Inc. NFL Prediction Show. Cole McDaniel, Vince McKee, ready to get this one going here with this show. Hey, it's been a really fun week. Vince and I were just talking off air about how much fun we've had on our high school playoff preview podcast. That has been a blast. If you haven't checked that out already, make sure you do so. Also, like I said, I want to thank everybody, all the great supporters, all the great fans out there who continue to watch all of our videos, who have subscribed to the channel at this point. If you have not subscribed yet, make sure you do so. Again, we'd appreciate that. It really helps us as we continue to grow this show, high school coverage, and all those other things as well. And before I introduce Vince again and bring him in, of course, you all know him. Reminder that Climate Tech Inc. for 48 years, family owned and operated. They have been the premier company for all HVAC services, both residential and commercial. They have it covered. They offer free estimates on equipment replacement and 24-hour emergency service. Visit them at climate-tech.com. Vince, welcome in. Talked about all the fun things. We've been having a great time the last couple weeks.
Yeah, this has just been, really my favorite part of the year. Like we talk about, every year at this time with the high school football playoffs going on, NFL, and certainly college heating up as well. And just a ton of fun. And like you said, Cole, expected every Wednesday night for that to drop. Our high school football show to drop on Wednesdays. Thursdays continues to be pro and college football as well. So we're doing it all. We're having a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, the more this YouTube thing expands, I'm going to start taking things that we did in written content, maybe some prediction articles, things like that. We're going to move it over to YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do that. That way you get first notifications when we go live on pretty much everything. And Cole, I am ready. I'm losing. And here we are past Halloween for the first time in 2 years. I think usually Halloween weekend is usually when I start to make that jump. So
Yep.
I'm down a game, man. And it's the Browns that did it to me. So unbelievable.
Yeah, it came to get you, and we're going to get to the NFL here in a moment. Well, we know the Browns aren't going to get you this week as they have a bye, but we'll get to that in a moment. And we're going to start out with probably the best game this weekend between both college and NFL football. That is number 1 Tennessee going up against number 3 Georgia. Now, here's the funny thing. When we started scheduling who we were going to talk about this week, and I sent this for the top 25 game, it was flipped. I was going off of the AP poll at that time. Georgia was number 1. Tennessee was number 3. They've completely flipped positions here in the rankings with the College Football Playoff Committee. These are two teams that, with Ohio State, that top 3 can really be interchanged at the moment. But Vince, how do you see this incredible matchup going?
This is going to be a blast of a Saturday. We have a couple of games this weekend that are can't miss. Alabama, LSU, another one of those you don't want to miss. But that being said, I actually have Georgia winning for the sole purpose that it's so hard for a team to beat the top team in the country twice in a must span. Now, I understand Tennessee is number 1 in the the bowl championship series rankings and all that, the college football playoff rankings. I hears you. But still, I think until Georgia gets beat, the eye test, as we call it, a lot of people, if you were to say who's the best team in the country right now, they're either going to say Ohio State or Georgia. So this is a chance for Tennessee to prove it. I just think it's going to be really difficult for them to knock off Alabama and Georgia pretty much in a 30-day span. Going to go with the Bulldogs. Would love to see the Volunteers. We're going to go with the Bulldogs.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about the Volunteers a couple times already this season. They're having a great year. This is long overdue for the Tennessee Volunteers. I'm loving it. I would prefer seeing Tennessee win. I'd prefer seeing them go on a run. Just a change up, something different in the SEC where it's not Alabama, where it's not Georgia, a team that goes on to win there. Obviously, LSU, part of those 3 teams that's been that mix for a while. Would be nice to see somebody change it up, make it to that to the college football playoff. I'd love for it to be Tennessee. The only problem for Tennessee is as good as that offense is, and I think they have plenty of big playability with their quarterback Hendon Hooker and Hyatt, their receiver. I mean, he is a big play threat every time they throw it down the field to him. He's got plenty of speed. tons of talent. I just don't think their defense is nearly at the level of some of those other programs out there. And going up against Georgia, is their offense super explosive? Is it the greatest, most flashy offense? No. Stetson Bennett's good enough. Obviously, we know that because they won the national title last year with Stetson Bennett, and he's probably improved a little bit. Brock Bowers is the most explosive tight end in the entire country. Just get him the football. He'll make something happen. But Georgia's defense is still physical. They're still fast. They're still good. So if they can slow down Tennessee's offense, I really just don't think that Tennessee's defense can stop Georgia enough times to win this game. I mean, Georgia's an 8-point favorite midweek for a reason. They're a good football team, and even though Tennessee's at the top, probably because of the wow factor and the surprise factor and maybe the better resume because of the win against Alabama, I don't think Georgia's going to have a difficult time winning this game. It might be fairly close. I actually think it's going to be a bit more defensive, like Georgia scoring 27 points in the win. But I definitely think that Georgia's going to control that game, and that's why I have the Bulldogs here.
So we'll see. Can't wait to see it.
I know, right? That probably is the best game between college football and all of pro football this week. Everybody's going to be tuned into that one. 2 top 3 teams. It has big playoff implications. It's going to really determine what's going to happen in the SEC. It's going to lay that groundwork for who's going to be in the SEC championship game. So if Tennessee pulls it off, then things get really interesting, in my opinion, because I could easily see Tennessee dropping a game, getting comfortable, getting complacent because they haven't been here, and it could get a little dicey here later in the season. Speaking of dicey, let's talk about the Iowa Hawkeyes offense. It's terrible. They've been awful this season. We talked about them just a little bit, not too much, but their offense is atrocious. Defense, still an Iowa defense. They're still very physical, great defense. It's just their defense can't simply just win them the football game. I know there's a saying, defense wins championships. Well, your defense isn't going to win you a championship solely if your offense can't put any points on the board. That's the problem that Iowa has right now. They're going up against Purdue, and usually Purdue and Iowa have some really fun matchups. This one, Vince, West Lafayette, how do you feel about this?
This is okay. So I guess this is just me being stubborn. I've picked Purdue a couple of times this year and they've lost. I think I picked Indiana once, they lost. I picked another Big Ten, Rutgers, they lost. I seem to be botching every time I try to make a splash with a big, underdog in the Big Ten. I'm actually going to go for it one more time. I mean, Purdue to me, I don't know what it is. I think they're bound to win one of these games. I don't have a lot to say on this because, again, Iowa doesn't really give you much to talk about. But I'm going to go with Purdue. I'm going to roll the dice this time.
Okay. Well, Purdue, the favorites coming into this game at 5-3 over 4-4 Iowa.
Right. But when an outsider looks at this game again, and if you're not on top of it, and you just say, casually, who do you think who has a better record? Most people are going to say Iowa. Iowa is more so known for football as Purdue is for basketball. So I guess that's kind of how I say that the general perception of both programs.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. I think it could be a pretty even competitive game. A defensive battle is what I'd expect here in the Big Ten West with this one. I have Purdue winning at 17-13. Just slugging it out. You're seeing the defense get the stops. I don't think Purdue's offense is explosive enough to really exploit Iowa's defense. So that's why it's going to stay close. But I still think at home, I'm going with the Boilermakers to win that one. But not too many great games in the Big Ten. I think that's the most even of all the matchups we're going to see this weekend, though.
Yeah, and I looked at the slate, too. It looks like we are headed for a lot of blowouts.
Yep, agreed. Now, a game that I don't think this is going to result in a blowout. I'll get your opinion here first. But one of these two teams had a major blowout as the underdogs. Kansas State shut out Oklahoma State. I can't believe that. They wiped the floor with the Cowboys, and now They're up to 13th in the rankings, and they play against number 24 Texas, an improving Texas team with some decent pieces. Vince, how do you feel about this one? Can Kansas State win again? And if they win, will it be similar or reminiscent of that Oklahoma State game?
And here's what I say: I actually think Kansas State is the kind of team that could build off of a big win and not crumble under the expectations of doing it again. Texas has shown us time and time again over the years they might get a big win here and there, but they can't put it together. Yes, they're 5-3. They had that massive victory over Oklahoma where they blew the doors off of them for the first time in years. And since then, they've been subpar. That being said, I think I'm going to go with Kansas State.
That would be a huge upset if Kansas, not even in this game, comes out and beats them both. But yeah, no, I hear you. We're going to be split on this because I'm actually going with Texas. I think sometimes when you have the highest of highs in your season, something comes down, it's going to falter. They almost can't go up from this point. I don't think if you're Kansas State, I think you hit your highest point of the season the moment that everybody looks back at years to come and say, remember when we had that blowout win against Oklahoma State? I think this is going to be the shining moment of the season for Kansas State was last week. I think they're going to drop off a little bit, maybe falter, get caught off guard. Believe in Quinn Ewers. I believe in Bijan Robinson. Fantastic running back. I think Texas actually sneaks this one out. A much better Texas team. They're continuing to improve from some past seasons. We've talked about we'd love to see Texas be back to a power and be up there and competing because it just makes the college football landscape better. And I think they're taking the steps in the right direction to get there. They're starting to have some good quarterbacks come through too that helps elevate that play. And Ewers still young, but I think he's going to do just enough here against the Wildcats to get the win.
We shall see.
So as we turn to the NFL here, Vince, you know, I'm all smiles and I'm happy, of course, and as Vince switches to the Hall of Fame in Canton. Love the backdrop here. But yeah, as we turn to this and we go to the NFL, Vince is going to need a Hall of Fame performance this week. Exactly. As he has gone down. He needs to find a way to come back. Again, like he mentioned, about midway through the season, about this point is when my lead has diminished and gone away, and Vince has managed to take the lead.
You know,
the script has flipped.
Yes. You were a very little boy. You were very young. But in 2002, right around this exact time of year, the Anaheim Angels were in the World Series against the San Francisco Giants, and they had something called the Rally Monkey. And it was a red monkey dressed in the Anaheim Angels jersey, and they used that to win. That was their big rally cry. So I said to myself, I'm not a big Anaheim Angels fan, so I'm not going Rally Monkey style. But for this 1 week alone, until I could either catch up or take the lead, and we're talking NFL football, I had to do it.
Yeah, and honestly, Vince, last week, it wasn't a bad week for you. You were 9-6 on the week. It was still a good week. I just had my best week of the year at 11-4. That's the difference here. We start off the season with the first couple weeks were actually quite tough. We were hovering right around 500. We're starting to have a bit of a gap. We've got a lot more wins compared to losses on our record. I'm 72-52. You're 71-53. Only one game separating us, but we're definitely picking up more and more wins as the season's going on, understanding what these teams are, probably what their end goal is, what they're trying to do. It's starting to get a little bit easier with the picks, but I don't want to jinx it as we move into November and keep this going on. But right now we've been on a little bit of a good run last couple weeks.
Let's do it, man. I mean, for me, I'll start off here. I usually don't bootleg your show, and I won't start this week. But I will say that I switched my upset pick earlier today after the trade deadline. I was going to go all in on the Bears. The Bears traded for Claypool. I had them picked anyways. So truth be told, I made my picks really early this week. Monday night, watching the Browns game, I kind of picked ahead a little bit. And Bears made, and then they traded for Claypool. I'm like, hell yeah. I'm like, my upset pick's looking real good right now. Then the Dolphins turn around and trade for Bradley Chubb. So ended up switching back to the Dolphins. That one's probably going to come back to bite me in the butt. you just know Chicago's going to win now that I switched my pick. So when we get to the upset pick, which I went with a team that I have no clue how they're even the underdog, but we'll get to that in a bit.
We will. And before we get to that, let's start with the marquee matchup.
Sure.
I think there are actually a couple good games, but they're more of the primetime matchups. So this week, the one that I found really interesting was Atlanta still piecing together a good season. Cordero Patterson coming back off the IR. He's back to practice today. Expect him to be back in that lineup. I don't know if he'll be on limited reps or be back to how he had been playing and just get pretty much all the reps there in the backfield. But if they give him a ton of reps, Cordero Patterson is a threat as a runner, threat as a pass catcher out of the backfield. That Falcons team, it could really help them, give them an additional spark. But they go up against a Los Angeles Chargers team that's coming off of a bye week, maybe had time to work to get some guys healthy. You and I both feel good about Herbert. We feel good about that team. Really, I think offensively, the main thing is if they can just get Keenan Allen healthy, get him up and playing again, that's going to be helpful for the passing attack. On defense, they've had some issues with injuries, but I still think it's a good Chargers team. Chargers-Falcons could be a really, really nice game. It is in Atlanta. I'm going to start this one off here, Vince. I'm going to say just because the Chargers were on the bye week, I'm going to say that they're going to come out, be prepared, and because of the close Atlanta-Carolina battle that went to overtime, I just think maybe that wears on the legs a little bit. I obviously have a week to rest and still practice, but maybe wears on the legs, maybe wears on you mentally. I just think that this is the Chargers' time to get this win, but I'm not ruling out the Falcons making this very interesting and actually giving the Chargers a huge test.
I agree with you. Kind of the same premise. Coming off the bye are the Chargers, and you have to believe they'll be fully prepared, a little bit more rested, a little bit more healthy. Herbert got banged up earlier in the year, had those ribs, has the issues with them as well. He's feeling better now. I expect them to be better. I base it on this. I look at this every week. I really, really study hard the records. And I'm not just talking about flipping up your phone and be like, oh, they're 4-2, they're 5-3. Well, I mean, really studying the records. To me, and this is no shock to Cole because me and him have talked about this a lot, I think the Chargers are one of the top 3 teams in the AFC. They're off to a rough start. I believe they are much better than 4-3. If they get it together, they can make one hell of a run. You never know what they're going to do. Okay. Falcons 4-4, they happen to be playing in one of the worst divisions in football right now. That's helping them stay mentally sharp, mentally competitive. I think they're playing out of their minds, quite frankly. I don't think Atlanta is nearly this talented. The fact that they're 4-4 right now, to me, is stunning. But again, it's a product of the teams they've played. That being said, the Chargers should roll in this game. With as crazy as the NFL has been this year, I don't know if I'd put a ton of money on it, but definitely going to Chargers.
Yeah. The 3 teams I love to watch play football in the AFC, of course, I'm going to say the Browns because I want to watch all their games. But the Bills and the Chargers, just those 2 other teams that really intrigue me with the way they play football. Obviously, the Bills are probably on a different level than the Chargers, just a notch above. But I still think the Chargers have a lot of ability there. They just need to get guys healthy. As simple as that.
Well, the Chiefs are a victim of their own success in a way because I love the Kansas City Chiefs and I love to watch them play. Patrick Mahomes is one of my favorite football players. But the thing is, you expect them to be good. So when the Chiefs don't go out there and if they don't light it up, right away the talk is, oh, what's wrong with the Chiefs, right? Where the Chargers remind me of a young, and I'm crossing sports here, but they remind me of a young Cleveland Cavaliers the first time LeBron was here, when you went through such mediocrity to being really good and you were excited about it. And to me, that's where I feel the Chargers are at, is they were lousy for so many years in a row. Now they're getting good again, and it's exciting every time they win. Where Kansas City, it's expected.
Well, you mentioned the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's flip to them on Sunday night. Sunday Night Football against the Tennessee Titans. Now, there have been some decent battles between these 2 teams. We've seen them in the playoffs as well. Some interesting plays, too. at the end of games in recent history between those two. Now, Vince, I'll toss this to you first.
Sure.
Is this the time that the Titans get the win? Or is this a time in a moment where you see that the Titans maybe aren't as good as what their record is and the Chiefs really take it to them?
It's the moment where you see the Titans are nearly as good as what their record is, quite frankly. Kansas City, to me, I just got done saying it, 4 seconds ago?
Mm-hmm.
I still think they're one of the top 3 teams in all of football and one of the top 2 teams in the AFC right behind Buffalo. That being stated, I am still, man, I feel like sometimes me and Colio here are a broken record because I've never bought in to the Titans. I just haven't. I love Derrick Henry. I think he's a hell of a back. I like their defense at times, but overall, in the biggest moments, they tend to crumble. I think they do again here. It's going to be a great game. I love Sunday Night Football, and I'm going to sit there and I'm going to watch it. But I think this is Kansas City's night to roll.
Well, I think Ryan Tannehill is going to be back, coming back from that injury. They had issues offensively. They didn't get much going offensively, but thankfully, really the Texans didn't last week either, so they were able to get the win. Malik Willis didn't do much of anything back there at quarterback, and Ryan Tannehill, like I said, him being back should at least help them. But how bad's that injury? Is it going to slow him down? Obviously, it was bad enough that he had to be out last week. It didn't matter for them. They got it done. Did that week of rest help him get him healthy again? We'll wait and see. That is to be determined as he steps out on the football field and we'll witness the play. Derrick Henry, very talented running back. They're getting him moving. They're getting those legs churning. I think he's starting to hit his stride a little bit more here now. I think Mike Vrabel's a good head coach, but I think the Chiefs are too much. I don't think this Titans team is nearly as good as what their record is. Their division's having their own struggles. And like I said, honestly, the team who probably is the most talent is the Indianapolis Colts, and you and I have talked about that as well. And we're talking about it really, really looks like they're almost tanking by the way that they're performing and playing. And also, I mean, they blew that at the end against the Commanders. It just looks reminiscent of those teams that start to go on those slides. We'll wait and see. But the Titans find themselves at 5-2. Here's the funny thing. 5-2 versus 5-2. It's a 12.5-point spread.
Because it's 2 different 5-2s.
Totally different. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs, I think they roll. You and I are on the same page here. I think they're going to put up plenty of points against the Titans. And I just don't think the Titans, they're a run game based team. And when you're down, you're going to have to steer away from the run a little bit. And they're just not going to have time on their side to catch up with the Chiefs. It's not going to happen. Kansas City gets the win here.
Yeah, very, very little to discuss, I would think.
Now, Vince, I'm going to turn to the upset pick, and we'll get to you. I know you talked about the Bears, and you were going to go with the Bears, and then you flipped to the Dolphins. Obviously, I know you have your pick in front of you, but I'm going to give you a few moments to think it over in case you need to change anything else here last minute. But I'll be honest, upset pick-wise, I was going down this list, and this is one of the maybe 2 toughest weeks I've seen so far this season with trying to pick an upset pick. I was going down that list thinking, I don't know. I'm not sure about this one. I don't feel confident about this. There are times where I walk in and I feel very confident about my upset pick. Sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't. This time, I don't feel necessarily super confident about the pick. But I'm going to say this. This team is one of the teams that right now, if the season ended, they'd have a top 5 pick in the upcoming NFL draft. So they could easily continue to win games because I think there's a position that there's some good players at, specifically at quarterback, that they could select. But I also think they have plenty of talent on the team. They still have enough ability to defeat a division rival who's had some struggles. I'm going with the Detroit Lions over the Green Bay Packers. I just think that the Lions, they put up a ton of points. I mean, through the first 5 weeks of the season, they were one of the top scoring teams in the NFL. They still have a good team. I think their defense, they have decent pieces. They still have decent pieces on offense. They've been dealing with their own injury issues with Swift. They traded away Hawkinson here to the Vikings. They've been dealing with wide receiver issues of Amon-Ra St. Brown hasn't been fully healthy. They've been a little bit depleted there. But the Packers, they didn't make a move for wide receiver. They have their own injuries at wide receiver. Their defense, I believe in what the defense has in the secondary, but they struggle stopping the run. I don't think it necessarily matters whether it's Williams back there running the ball, whether it's DeAndre Swift. I actually think the Lions run all over the Packers at Ford Field this week, and they get that division win.
And I almost went with that one too. The only reason why I didn't is over the years, Aaron Rodgers has dominated the Lions, like Brett Favre did before him. And the thing about it is I just kind of feel like if this is the game where the Packers are going to get things turned around, this is the game where the Packers are going to get things turned around. They're playing against a team they have great success against. And I went with Green Bay. That was a tough one. There was a couple where I was like, man, this could go either way. The one that jumped off the page to me, and if I'm wrong about this, if I had somehow the point spread backwards and didn't realize I did that in my mind, let me know, and I'll go back to my other pick of Chicago as my upset pick. If I screwed this up. I don't think I did. But you tell me, did I see this right? Seattle is an underdog at Arizona?
Yeah, on the road. Of course, you really give the home team about 3 points, but
Right.
Arizona is a 2-point favorite. So if this was in a neutral site, obviously you'd see the Seahawks would be the favorite. But yeah, they're the underdog this week.
And here's the thing with this game. I'm going to take Seattle. But here's the thing, quite frankly. All right. If you would have talked to me before the season began and you would have said, okay, through 8 games, we'll just say 8 games. Through 8 games, what would the records be? I would have told you Seattle 2-6, Arizona 7-1, 6-2. Like, I really am stunned with how bad Arizona is this year. Now, they have Hopkins back. That could be a huge, huge lift for them coming into this week. I understand that. I understand this is a bit of a risky pick, but Seattle is also red hot. Arizona has buried me, including last week. There's been so many times this year where I've picked Arizona, you've picked the other team, and the other team's won. The one time I picked Arizona and you picked the other team and Arizona did win, it was on a fluke fourth quarter comeback against the Raiders that should have never happened, right? So I'm still not sold on Seattle either, but my goodness, their offense has been taking off like a rocket. I'm going to roll the dice, play the hot hand. I think you're right. I think it's a pick 'em, quite frankly. But with the point spread being what it is, I will go with Seattle. Again, I'm not going to double down. That Chicago-Miami game has me so intrigued. And since I already have you on the telephone here, as my mom used to say back in the old days when I was a kid and I would hear, since I got you on the phone, I'm just curious. Which way are you going with Miami and Chicago? I'm dying to know.
I'm going with the Dolphins pretty handily winning that.
Handily.
I think the Bears, they've given away too many good pieces on their defense at this point. I think they're going to lack a pass rush. There's no Robert Quinn. There's no Roquan Smith. I think that Tua is going to be comfortable. He's going to be able to find Hill and find Waddle. I just think he's going to be able to take advantage of those weapons. I like some of the young pieces in the secondary for the Bears. Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon, guys that I was high on coming out in this past draft class who are rookies. But the youth going up against the speed of Waddle and Hill, I just don't think it's going to work out for them. I think the Bears put up points. I still have them putting up 21 points, but it being a 37-21 game, I just think the Dolphins really pour on the points against the Chicago Bears defense, which continues to downgrade on defense. I just don't think it's going to be that close in that one, even though it's intriguing because Justin Fields is playing very well. The offense is improving. I think as the offense is improving, they're letting their defense go and downgrade that, which I just can't. I can't believe that because your division is possibly wide open. Yeah, the Vikings are sitting up there at the top, but you can't tell me that Vikings team is head and shoulders above everybody else. I think they've got some good things there, but they're not like a Super Bowl caliber team. So I really just believe that the Bears should have tried to keep what they had on defense, keep that defense piece together, and then just build on offense, but they haven't really done that. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just going with the Dolphins there. And to respond to what you're talking about with the Cardinals, which is funny enough, last week I went against the Cardinals. I went with the Vikings because the Vikings were at home. This week, you're going to be in for another game of us split on the Cardinals. So the Seahawks last week. I'll be honest, the Seahawks are looking much better on defense than what I would expect. Kenneth Walker's fantastic. Of course, I rated him my number one running back coming out in this past class. That's holding true. I mean, he looks phenomenal. He's physical. He's got the vision. I love the way he plays football. Why was he even behind Rashad Penny to start the season? I don't understand it. But he's got the opportunity. He's out there now. He's playing great. Geno Smith has been performing. I like what I've seen from the Seahawks. Thing is, it's a game that you actually were right on last week. You had the Seahawks winning. I had the Giants. Giants don't lose that game if it's not for Richie James muffing or fumbling after returning 2 punts.
True.
That's the only reason why the Giants didn't win that game, because I actually didn't think the Seahawks really dominated. I thought the Giants actually had a great shot to win. They shot themselves in the foot. They made their own mistakes, and that's what cost them that game. Because of that, I think Cardinals lost last week. Time for them to bounce back at home. They need a win. They have enough ability on that team. Kyler Murray is going to step up against the Seahawks, and I just have the Cardinals getting the win here. So once again, we're split on Arizona.
All righty, mark it down.
So, we went from 2 bird teams to there's another bird team here in this Monday Night Football game, as there's no Browns game, so we can't talk about the Browns this week, really. Again, they are on a bye week, but they got the win. Everybody can enjoy that win for an extra week. They can't break our hearts this week in the bye week. So, let's just turn to the same division as the Browns. The Baltimore Ravens, they're going up against the New Orleans Saints. Monday Night Football, the Ravens have had their struggles at times here as of late. The Saints have had some struggles, but they've also had some good moments. Both of them have. I actually think this game between the 5-3 Ravens and the 3-5 Saints is quite interesting, very intriguing. Vince, what do you think about this one?
Oh, boy, howdy. I can't wait for this game. I actually think this is, again, 2 teams that, let's see what their record, again, the Saints 3-5. Is it injuries or what's the deal? Is it just because Drew Brees left? I mean, they're winning games they shouldn't. They're losing other games they shouldn't. They're impossible to predict this season. Through 8 weeks, I've maybe predicted the Saints right twice. They're very, very difficult. I like the Ravens a lot over the years. I'm actually a little bit down on them this season. I think they've kind of taken a step back. Their running back room's a mess. Dobbins is hurt. Gus Edwards stepped up, had the game of his life against the Browns, naturally, go figure. Now they're talking about they just brought in the kid from San Francisco, I believe. I got to look again, but pretty sure I think either he came in or Kenyon Drake or something's going on there. But regardless, their whole team is just like one moving part from week to week. They're blowing fourth quarter leads. They're just impossible to predict this. Both teams have been impossible to predict this season. So what do I do, right? What do I do when I can't decide? I either go with the better coach or the best player. Who's the best player that's going to be on the field? Who's the best coach that's going to be on the sidelines? For me, it's easy both times. Best player, Lamar Jackson. Best coach, Harbaugh. Have to go with the Ravens using that philosophy. Although this is a Monday Night Football game that I think it's can't miss. I wouldn't mind watching this on Sunday night. It's going to be that good. I think it should be that good.
Let me give the score first.
Sure.
My score prediction, 25-24. I think it is going to be a nail-biter game, but I have the Baltimore Ravens beating the Saints in this game. One didn't really even weigh into my decision of why I chose the Ravens here, but I mean, talk about the Ravens' fortunes and just going out and getting good players. Now in the linebacking core, you now have Patrick Queen with Roquan Smith. I mean, come on. Roquan Smith, that is just giving a good team even more riches. I know the Ravens have had their issues. I think there's some turmoil there
There is.
that has to do with behind the scenes stuff that's leaking onto the field because their team actually is loaded with talent. Yes, they've had the injuries at running back, but they've had the injuries last year, and they were better last year than what they are this year. I think there was just the frustration from the fan base with Harbaugh at the beginning of the season with the slower start. There's frustration with, are we giving Lamar a contract after this season or not? Is he going to be on the franchise tag? What's going to happen? I think there's a lot of that going on. That being said, that team is still very talented. They have plenty of players there. They can get the job done. I still believe in what they have defensively, even though they haven't performed as well defensively this year. That linebacking core, I think, just got that much scarier, that much more explosive and quicker. So I think all that leads into why I think the Ravens, they win this game, even though it will be a close one. Just on Monday night, I've got a gut feeling that the Saints are going to give them a battle. You're going to see Kamara get plenty of touches. I think Chris Olave has a big game, actually. I think there are plenty of players for the Saints to make it interesting, but the better team comes out with the victory in this game.
It's wild to me too because the Saints never used to lose at home. I mean, year in, year out, you would never want to go to the Mercedes-Benz Superdome because they were there 7-1, 8-0, sometimes maybe 6-2, but you would almost never see them lose at home. That mystique is just gone. I don't, and it's not all Drew Brees either. I don't want to pin it on one guy or one coach, Sean Payton being gone as well. Just something about it there in New Orleans. They had their run. They won the Super Bowl. They were one of the best teams in football, for a good 4-year stretch there. It's been a lot of fun. I just feel like they're headed towards a rebuild. I read so many things over the last couple of weeks when it came to, trade deadline moves. There was talk about Alvin Kamara, which I find to be stunning because I think actually he's the best guy on the team. Just interesting stuff there. So we'll see how it all goes down, though.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah. Now, the Browns, like I mentioned, on the bye week. At the trade deadline, Kareem Hunt is still a Cleveland Brown, so you still have Chubb, you still have Hunt there. It looked like because Chubb probably during free agency in the offseason, he's probably going to go elsewhere. Somebody's going to offer him money. So I think they were trying to trade him at the deadline to get something out of him rather than him just leave and you get nothing. But they had a price. They wanted a 4th round pick. Doesn't sound like they were getting it. Honestly, if you're not getting what you wanted, what you valued him at, why not keep him, especially when after that win, you have a chance to still compete for that division. It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of wins, but they could still do it. Browns kept things intact. We will see what they do, but they have time during the offseason, during the bye week to work on the game plan for the upcoming weeks. It's going to be crucial before December 4th.
He had a lot of touches on Monday night as well. I think 13 total touches. Found that to be interesting. Yes, they did pull him late for D'Ernest Johnson when the game was already well decided there. Around that 3-minute break, showed him on the sidelines. He actually looked red-eyed, might have been getting teared up there, thinking it was just about to be over for himself in his hometown of Cleveland. If you want to be more specific, Willoughby South there, but regardless. So interesting to see what they're going to do here. I think the win decided a lot of it. Obviously, I think if they would have lost that game, they might have took a 4th or 5th round pick for him. I think they could have did better. It's too late now. We'll never know. If I was Andrew Berry, I wouldn't have given him up for anything less than a 3rd, and that clearly was not happening. So here we go, Cole. Another week of pretty tight games. Like you said, it was hard to pick an underdog here, maybe 2 or 3 tops. But this season has been so unpredictable. Who really knows? I can't wait, man. I'm loving it more and more every week.
That it has. For 48 years, family-owned and operated Climate Tech has been the premier company for all HVAC services for both residential and commercial. They have it covered. They offer free estimates on equipment replacement and 24-hour emergency service. Visit them at climate-tech.com. For myself, Cole McDaniel, for Vince McKee, it's been a great week once again. We'll be out covering high school football. Again, make sure to pay attention to all the picks on KeonSports.com, as well as those high school football playoff articles going up on the website.
Good night, everyone.
Everybody, have a good night. Enjoy the week. Enjoy the weekend of football.